Hi, my name is Mohsen Duruchi, and I'm here with David Dorkey, which is the director for Midwest CCDC, and a student who was attending both CCDC and Cyberwars. His name is Jason Skugli. And we are going to talk about the Cyberwars and its impact on education.
I'm hearing some keyboards, and somebody might want to go on mute.
Yeah.
Can you move the slider?
So
No, that's
basically the impact of any kind of extracurricular activities college students have been studied for a while. The traditional ones are basically like sports, NCAA. That kind of things are very obvious. That has a big impact on the students, but also on the scientific side of it, and especially on the STEM side. There are some traditional ones that are done mainly with higher level undergraduate students as well as graduate students that have been around for a while. It showed that almost any type of these student environments had a very positive effect on student learning and development. Also, it's very obvious that the student's peer group is the most important source of influence on the student's academic and personal development. The out-of-class activities obviously involves working with other students, of which has a lot of soft skills involved in it, communication skills, conflict management, and leadership. Also, you get better understanding of critical thinking, especially when the problems are out-of-box problems. And any kind of academic and intellectual competence, time management issues that most of the time students struggle with it, especially in the field of STEM, in the high school as well as in the college. It's also shown that these studies also have shown that the students are they are more active in these out-of-class activities. They're more likely to have higher educational ambitions, and also regarding the career path, it's for the future job success. So with this introduction, we want to talk a little bit about the cybersecurity education. Now, one of the major challenges for cybersecurity education is getting real hands-on and out-of-controlled classroom and lab environment experience for the students. And it's very challenging to find real security jobs as far as hardening or live security monitoring or pen testing in real environment due to lots of different factors. While students are still in the college and they're learning as internship or co-op, things like that. So the idea of CCDC obviously came out to help with this real experience for the cybersecurity education, and the main thing is the simulation of a dynamic environment. Setting up such thing in the lab environment is very difficult and cumbersome. And the other side of that is how could you create other type of, how do you create an environment that includes other type of skills that are needed, along with the hard skills of being able to monitor the packets or find malicious activities, things like that. How about time management? How about being able to do certain tasks that were scheduled to be done? How about working with other coworkers on resolving different issues at the same time? In other words, the pressure of the work that, especially for the cybersecurity career, is very different because of its urgency and its the criticality of the issue. So cybersecurity or collegiate cyber defense competition, CCDC, was designed based on that idea. I think David can speak about it a lot more, about the details of it. So here I just talk about my own experience about how my students got impacted by that. We are going to have our fourth Wisconsin CCDC this year in February of 2014. And now I see that how my students get a lot more hands-on, a lot more confidence for real jobs. There are few companies in the area that their professionals are involved in red teaming for us, which they have been hiring our students. And 403 Lab is one of those. They did a red team for Midwest CCDC as well. They've been a part of that, or once they did the National Cyber League red team. They've been hiring our students for different type of security jobs that they have. There are some job postings now coming out with certain companies that they put this also as a part of the job description that CCDC experience is preferred. And therefore, we see the impact of that already. The professionals, they really love to come and get involved in the red teaming. They think that's a great opportunity for them to practice on certain aspects of their work. And they say that sometimes just setting things up and putting things together like that takes them a long time, whereas it's already ready for them to try it and see the result of it. So in any rate, CCDC is for securing systems and being able to handle the business demands at the same time and being able to prioritize the tasks while doing a combination of different works. A team of students are involved in here. We get always very positive feedback from faculty. We started with 3 teams in Wisconsin. Now we have, I think, 6 or 7 teams this year. So it shows that the students love it and faculty see a lot of impact of that on their students. Also, as I said, industry sees that as a very good opportunity. Now we have a video that is a brief video, goes over that from YouTube. And then after that, David Dorkey will continue the talk. Micah, can you play the video? Hello? David now is going to continue the talk.
Okay. Thanks so much, folks. Once again, I'm David Durkin with CSSIA. I'm the Midwest Director for CCDC. Many of us have had some experience with CCDC, so I'm going to assume that you're somewhat familiar with it. But the whole idea to just kind of give a backdrop on this is to kind of address the issue of how to further student skills. And it's with the belief that the foundational coursework that they do is really not enough to gain a true sense of the field and doesn't quite meet the expectations for industry in terms of student training. And so we're all striving towards a type of experience that would be more of a capstone, integrated type of experience. I'm sure that those of us that are in the field teaching the disciplines feel the weight of some of these concerns. My own experience and those of a lot of the other advisors that I've talked to has been that the coursework tends to be like vignettes of various subjects, and the labs are oftentimes kind of like going down the ruts of the lab. That's how I describe it, where they follow instructions for a peculiar, very specific kind of exercise, and students don't have a bigger picture, if you will. So all this is trying to give a kind of a bigger context for people to work with. And trying to provide competitive environments, CSSIA has been involved with this since 2006. We used to do brick and mortar type competitions. Very, very difficult to set things up for a competitive environment this way. And so kind of scratching our heads, realizing there's got to be a better way. We hit on the Cyber Stadium concept, which is powered by MDG NetLab. MDG is giving a separate talk here at the conference, and so they are represented for those that may be interested in that product. It's a simple access to the web interface, and we leverage the same methodology in a competition environment that we do for remote labs as well as train the trainer. You see a few icons there, a few graphics there. From the Invitational in 2010, it shows you some of the facilities that we have. Those are actual hardware that's integrated with the all virtualized environment. We have some that have hardware, some that don't. One of the CCDC students shown there, Ryan Healy, has been involved in competition space for a number of years, both in CCDC as well as the National Cyber League and now Cyberwars. So we'll try and show you a sense here of some of the facilities and different offerings that we have here, where we've bundled in various labs for the delivery of content, all of which is remote access. And the MDG system provides a scheduling access environment that provides a number of features for us. You're able to organize student access into teams, schedule remote facilities, and otherwise manage the system. The nice thing about it is, rather than brick and mortar with the virtualized type equipment, once you end the reservation and start again, it basically starts from baseline. So it's been very durable solution for us. The other thing about this is that for competitions, once it's designed and set up, you can provide practice time on the same environment with which students will be actually competing. So that's a big advantage. Here's a little bit of something for the kind of what's under the hood here. We run ESXi servers with a SAN system. That all drives with the MDG front end, and you see individual team virtualized units that are kind of off of ESXi then. And so we're using this for a number of different applications. As you might imagine, there's a little bit of technology and work that's needed to set all this up. Commonplace question is, what does it cost to kind of get in the game? A cyber stadium costs about $130,000. With some distance of ground with CCDC, together with the fact that, I'm sure it's been displayed at this conference, that there's been quite a bit of expanse in terms of competition space. There are a lot more competitions out there now than just CCDC. Principally, I think of the National Cyber League, of which I'm one of the managers. So many of you may have students that have participated in the NCL this last fall. That's just one of several different competitions that are out there that help to expand and support students' integrated type experiences. More recently, there's been, I guess, a better appreciation that a purely defensive type of competition has some disadvantages to it, in that really what students need is they need to know something about pen testing and what types of offensive actions are taken out there in the real world. So in order to defend, you have to know really how to attack. And with this realization, CSSIA began to think about something that was a little different kind of competition, one that would allow teams actually to launch offensive type actions, those actions that normally we have with respect to a professional red team within CCDC. So with this, we did leverage, once again, the cyber stadium concept that we had to try and develop then a head-to-head competition between student teams, where each student team can access, reach, if you will, and attack any other team. And this is the concept that led to CSSIA's Cyberwars. CSSIA Cyberwars really, together with the Cyber Stadium, is the brainchild of Eric Spengler, the leader of CSSIA. So credit should be given where credit is due. So CSSIA Cyberwars was inaugurated in the spring of 2013. And in the year 2013, we've had 6 Cyberwars events. Typically, we run Cyberwars events from 6 to 9 teams. We have a total capacity of 10. Just by virtual management, usually it becomes difficult to line up all 10 teams, which is probably a good thing. It's always nice to have like a spare pod or a spare team, of which we have availed ourselves from time to time. The competition does include both offensive and defensive components. You'll see within the Cyberwars topology that we have a DMZ and LAN, both of which have services that are based in them, so it's not quite mimicking a real environment, but it's more like a double DMZ, if you will. And then we have a Kali box off to the side, together with a Backtrack 5 box within the LAN environment. Both of these ready-made to launch attacks. One of the things about the competition is that everybody wants to come in and attack. But the way it's structured in terms of the topology, you have 8 students per team, but you only have 2 VMs really that can launch attacks. It's possible that you could have more than one person access the attack machines, but it's really designed to try and balance off defensive type work together with offensive. So the design that we had in mind was something like 6 students would do defense and 2 students would do offense. So they can experiment with this, and it's interesting to see the results of this in time. I would say especially the November event was a pretty hard-hitting event. We had some pretty decent teams with a fair amount of practice, and by the end of the event, most services were totally down. So it was a pretty interesting event. We had the following schools throughout the country that participated in the various events. Kind of interesting having teams access the Cyber Stadium from coast to coast, going from East Coast to West Coast and throughout the country. But it made for a pretty interesting event. So I was gratified to see the participation. Just as an example, we had 6 teams that participated on December. A little light in terms of participation. We could probably do a little bit of time for lessons learned. One of the lessons learned is that maybe this was too late in the year to hold the Cyberwars. A number of teams were in the week of finals. I think it was Baldwin Wallace that scored 3rd in that one. Student teams will, as I say, just to recap a little bit, student teams will simultaneously operate offensive and defensive security. College students will act as cyber defenders and security pen testers simultaneously, so they can have, and they have to use a lot of strategy here. We don't have a lot of details in terms of the actual machinations of the event itself, but just a couple of things. Students are not allowed to just put in a nice edge access control list on the front end. that wouldn't make for much of an event. Just like any real network, services have to be made available to all users. And then they're not allowed to do indiscriminate denial of service. Denial of service is nominally allowed. Perhaps we should think of it as a lowercase DLS. We have a guideline on how much bandwidth they're allowed to consume. So it's kind of a lighthearted denial of service if possible. Scoring on Cyberwars is based strictly on critical services. The critical services are up and running at the beginning of the event. Everybody is scoring flat, and then it's showtime. People start hammering away. Students are also given the dynamic service scores during the competition, so they know who the front running team is, and so there's a tendency then for teams throughout the day to kind of focus in their pen testing and probes and attacks on the front running team. So it makes for kind of an interesting day. We do have a student representative that participated in Cyberwars, and maybe it'd be a good time to hear from Jason and give us a little bit of eyewitness firsthand testimony as to what it was like to compete in Cyberwars. Jason, if you're there, can we hear from you?
Yeah, thanks, David. I'm here. Again, my name is Jason Skuglik. My team and I were participants in a number of CCDC and Cyberwars events. First thing I wanted to mention is David said that in the classroom environment you don't always have time to go through everything. The classroom is kind of a starting point, and the preparations for these competitions and the competitions themselves really do help to solidify and complement the education that we get in the classroom. Excuse me. It gives us an opportunity to really take what we've learned and expand upon it, use it in a more of a real-world scenario than just labs that have predetermined outcomes. We have an opportunity to work against teams of other students who have different ideas of defense and of attacks, and that really leads to a unique experience where it's never going to be the same thing twice. Your environment may be similar or the same, but having different people at the other end really makes a big difference. The offensive seats really were very sought after, as David mentioned. Everyone wanted to get their hands on that, and that's understandable. The opportunity to practice our offensive skills is really beneficial, I think. Really enjoyed the opportunity, even just in practice, to sit down and have an opportunity to look at our environment and try different attacks, try different means of gaining access to the different systems. And then, of course, to be able to put that into practice once we're actually in a competition and see how that works against the teams of other students who are, of course, doing their best to keep us out. It's some of the things that you learn when you're working with a team with the Cyberwars and the CCDC events. You really do have to have a good team. Your team really has to work well together. You've got, as it's mentioned, you've got up to 8 students working on an environment of around 10 machines, and if everyone is just sitting there with their heads in the computer, your team's not going to work very well. You really do need to communicate with each other, especially when you're looking at preventing attacks from the network side and having to really tailor your access control that you don't just limit an entire team so they can't get to your network, because as David said, that just kind of defeats the purpose of it. You really get a good sense of time management. You've got things that need to be done in a certain amount of time. And of course, time is of the essence when your services are being brought down. You want to bring those back up again And so working together in a team and having a good sense of time management really are skills that are reinforced in working with this. You know, participation was great in both the practice events and the actual competition events. It's just such a unique environment to get into a room with your peers and be able to put what you've learned to practice. And especially in events like the Cyberwars, where it's very unique with the opportunity to be able to practice and put your offensive skills to the test.
So Jason, let me ask you a question. I mean,
yeah.
Just your total experience with both CCDC and Cyberwars. I mean, is this something that complements your coursework? And then but at the same time, I guess it's like we're trying to strive towards this integrative type of experience. I mean, do you think we're kind of hitting the nail there on an integrative type of experience? Or do you think, no, it was just like another classroom assignment, it's just nothing big deal?
No, it's very much a complement to our education. Again, because it gives us the opportunity to take what we've learned in class and really expand on it and be able to put that into, I guess, more dynamic scenarios where it's not always just like a lab exercise from the book that's always going to have the same outcome. You kind of know where you're headed. With these competitions, you get to take what you've learned and in practice really try to fine-tune and expand on that, and then in the competitions to kind of prove yourself. And, you know, obviously learn from your mistakes. We all end up making mistakes in these competitions, and, you know, I mean, that's a great learning experience when you can make a mistake in a competition like this and learn something that would be very detrimental if you were to make the same kind of mistakes in a production environment.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions for Jason? Looking at the chat. Questions? Okay. Very good, Jason. Thank you so much for volunteering your time today. It's great to have you in the competition.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. All right. Moving on, there's a few references here for you to take a look at, different types of extracurricular activities. We'll make this available to, you know, the whole talk should be available to be able to drill down here if you wish to avail yourself of the references that we have. But it's a lush field out there now with a lot of people in the competition space. A lot of people giving this attention. I think one of the things we could spend some time on here, if we had a little more time, would be the evaluation stage. Certainly there's a need here with both CCDC and Cyberwars to work harder on verification of specific skills. Now that the knowledge domains are out, you know, there's a need out there to be able to do a better assessment on the outcomes of an event like that from a particular student point of view. Right now, we just have performance guidelines on how many services, how many attacks, that sort of thing. So we get some measures like that, but it's not tied to specific students. So we'd like to see if we can get a stronger tie-in. And as anybody knows with that sort of thing, that's getting data like that is challenging. All right, and then we have our contact information, and of course the main website is at CSSIA.org. CSSIA, CSSIA.org. Check the CSSIA site for upcoming information on future Cyberwars. We're sort of settled in with the fall semester being one for Cyberwars, so we do hope to have a series of Cyberwars events in the fall of 2014, and then spring will be geared up for CCDC. Okay, so let's address what questions you have.
a question, David, that says, can you add the number of Cyberwars and potential dates that they're gonna?
Yeah, in the fall. It's most likely right now we're planning on 3 or 4 Cyberwars. It's clear that there's always lessons learned. We started taking feedback data with a feedback survey in the last 2 Cyberwars. We had anecdotal data that came in. We met with a conference with all participants, starting with the very first one, to try and help guide our way in terms of management. But anyway, the short story is 3 or 4, and it'll definitely be managed differently next year. For the fall, we solicited information with or interest level, and we said, well, what dates would you like to compete in? And it was too difficult to manage that. We had all teams that applied, they put in preferences for various dates. You had some teams they wanted to compete in all 4 dates. I think we're going to be very focused on this. You'll have to sign up for a particular date and just go that route. The interest level is extremely high, so we bias our efforts towards getting every team that applied to compete at least once.
So basically, the teams are asking how many they can participate. I think it's once they finish one, like David, they might have chances on the other ones based on the queue they get into that.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm going to guess that next year, with the success here, that we might just make a policy that they might. This is coming after we have an advisory board that we work this with. That's a reasonable item to bring to the advisory board. We would allow every student team to come to participate once in a Cyberwars event. If we can field 10 teams per event, then that would limit our capacity to 40 teams, which is approximately double what we have this year. And that sounds about right to me. Yeah, I guess it brings up something, on different philosophy for CCDC and Cyberwars and all the competitive events that we sponsor. Is this really a competition where the goal is to establish a clear winner and announce the champions of any particular event or series, or is it an educational event? And fundamentally, we're using the venue of a competition for an educational event. And so our bias, our preference would be to have a larger number of teams that would compete once, make sure that they're exposed to that experience, rather than work with teams to compete a multiple number of times to kind of hone their skills to the point of being like a winner of such an event. So some of the best gains that you get with student acquisition of skills and appreciation of field is with their first experience with any of these competitions.
I think, David, one comment that I have is if that is well presented to the students and students get encouraged to participate at least once, and that it also makes your challenge of scheduling that kind of you faced this past season as far as teams dropped out and they were not able to compete and things like that.
Right.
Really efficient experience for everybody, trying to maximize the use of the
Right. It's we took a little hit on some of the feedback. So students can be harsh critics. They'll tell you right away if something's not working right. Some of the notifications on confirmation of participation, the team pack and documentation for the event, access credentials and so forth. student feedback was that it has to be sent out in a more timely fashion. Mosin, you brought up some of the issues of trying to maximize participation. So going round robin with emails back and forth, there's got to be a better way to do that. So we're going to think through and clean up the management of that a little bit then. And I think focusing in on particular events and allowing student teams to just pick one event, I think will be helpful.
Also, there's a question, David, about the day of the event, and I think it was mentioned in the past season that it was only on Saturdays, certain Saturdays.
Right.
A question, because some schools, they have certain restrictions as far as the Saturday access to their labs. Is there any way that there could be like a Friday also competition or not?
Yeah, I mean, we can keep this under advisement. This isn't so much like a board or a policy issue, but it's more of a practical issue of access integrity. It's just a point of fact that you need a certain adequacy in terms of internet, and Rain Valley, where the cyber stadiums are housed, has minimal internet activity on Saturdays. And we have tried even qualifying state CCDCs on Fridays, and the results are not as good because of the competition for internet traffic. We looked into dedicated internet service pipes coming directly into the cyber stadiums. That's a pretty serious move on the budget. As most of you know, that's if you want to have like a dedicated 50 meg pipe or something which offers like burst speeds, bandwidth on demand. We've looked at a lot of options on that. So far, we've settled on Saturdays. So that's our current policy, is that it's Saturday only. I would encourage teams to work with their respective local institutions to try and get special arrangements for using lab facilities for the purpose of competitive activities.
There is another comment that says, we have, of course, 4 minutes left, but if it could be coordinated with other events like Cyber Patriot and...
you're right. This is another thing that we had to hit on. That's a good question, good comment. We did have one Cyberwars competition this last fall that coincided with one of the NCL competitions, and that was unfortunate. Both were scheduled independently, but that's a good comment to try and watch what's going on with the competition space to try and pick the schedule and so forth. But most people realize that from their own institutions, just scheduling classes and so forth, scheduling can be kind of a nightmare. I have to schedule things way in advance, and once again, I'm not discounting the feedback on this. I'm hearing you loud and clear that we need to try and watch for that best we can. But once certain dates are established, you have to be careful on changing dates. One of the principles that you have in managing these is that basically you want what I call all green lights. You have to have the facilities that are reserved, which means that they're available. The training is not available, it's being done at the same time. Tech support is available, scoring engine managers are available. So everything is in line. And then ahead of time, certain pre-tests where the environment shows that everything is working properly. So it's a lot of attention to detail.
I think
anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
I think part of that also, David, is a gradual culture change of getting this kind of a routine that the students also, in especially cybersecurity education, need to come in.
We might. There's exactly. Once it's better known, we'll probably have a larger set of schools that will want to compete. There's other things too. This cyber stadium solution with using NDG NetLab and so forth. That's we're trying to encourage other schools to build facilities like that, and so there are some stadiums that are popping up around the country. other institutions may be able to sponsor a Cyberwars event as well, we'd be happy to work with our other institutions in terms of setting up facilities.
Thank you very much, David, for
thank you.
information. Thank you, everybody, for
about time for our session to end. We want to thank David and Mohsen and Jason for coming on. Thank you guys very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, David. Thank you very much. I'll see you later.
Thank you. Okay.